Now, if you live in Florida, we all know that arguably Publix is the best grocery store in Florida. But do you know what the first grocery store in Florida was? Well, if you didn't, don't worry. I did some digging. Let's get into it. Now, before 1893, all right, if you needed groceries, you would have to go to multiple different stores to get everything you needed. But that was until Henry and Louis Burkhart, they actually opened up a grocery store right inside of Henry Flagler's home in Palm Beach, Florida. Now, Henry Flagler's brother at the time was living in the home, and he said, look, okay, it's cool that y'all want to have this grocery store in here, but look, I'm going to have to shut this down because there's an important hotel across the street, and he didn't want the traffic from people coming to this grocery store in front of his hotel, so he told them they got to leave. Now, the two brothers ended up finding a new location for their store nearby, but for some reason, the store didn't last long in that location. So what they did was they put it on like a little boat barge thing, I think that's what they called it, and they shipped the store across the river to the other side, and then they opened up in 1893 as the first grocery store. Now, this isn't the original store, but when they moved it across the water, all right, they named it the Pioneer Grocery Store. And they also started their own company called the Lake Worth Grocery Company. And they opened up multiple stores in the area. Now, what made this a unique thing is because, like I said before, you had to go to multiple stores to get all your groceries. And usually the clerk at the time would get your groceries for you. But with this store, you could come in, pick out your own groceries, all right? And then you pay when you're done. Now, over the next 20, 30 years, there were a lot of grocery stores that opened up after the Pioneer store. But once the Piggly Wiggly came around in 1920, they changed the game. Now, see, the Piggly Wiggly, all right, they did things a little bit different. Yes, you could come in and get your own groceries and stuff like that, but it was the way that they stacked the groceries in a specific manner where it was organized and it was very clean. And another thing about the Piggly Wiggly is that they had a system here where at first there wasn't like store people, no clerk. It was one guy at the front, and they gave you a thing where you tagged all your groceries so you can see how much they cost, right? And you would tag it, and then when you get up to the front, he would look at what you tagged, and then you would pay for your groceries. Now, another thing that made the Piggly Wiggly so special is that, see, Piggly Wigglies didn't start in Florida. They started up north, all right? But they were already franchised. So Piggly Wiggly in Florida was the first commercial franchise grocery store that we've ever had. Now, in 1939, the first female-owned grocery store opened up, all right? And they called it Margaret Ann New Era Markets, right? But this is the thing, okay? The lady that owned it, feel me? Her name wasn't Margaret Ann. The reason why she named it this is because she wanted to stay anonymous first. But second, she wanted to be able to go inside of her store, walk around, and talk to the customers without nobody knowing who she was. Now, they asked the anonymous store owner, all right, if you're not going to name it your name, why did you, A, name it this name? And she said the name didn't matter. She said she just wanted to name it a woman's name because, you know, if you name it a woman's name, it's a little bit more welcoming. And inside of these stores were a lot more organized and they were a lot more cleaner. Now, I gotta say this store didn't last too long. Matter of fact, maybe the two brothers from the first store with the Lake Worth company, they ended up buying out this brand a couple years later, and they turned that brand into Winn-Dixie. Now, we all know about Winn-Dixie. It's got a love and hate relationship with a lot of Floridians, all right? You know, they are the beef people, and at one point in time, Winn-Dixie was thumping, but I just don't know that a lot of them been closing nowadays. But at this time, Winn-Dixie wasn't franchised. They only had a couple of them in the Florida area, but yeah, shout out to Winn-Dixie. Now, this is for everybody that's going to be asking, well, when did the first Publix open up? 1930 in Winter Haven, Florida was the first Publix. That's when they opened. Then he opened up one 5 years later across town, all right? It was the second location. So the more you know. Peace.